Good afternoon. Welcome to the August 7th General Services Meeting. I'm Christy Wood, and I'm joined with Councilman Dan English. Today, we have two agenda items. The first one is to request approval of professional service agreement with Welch Comer Engineers for the Government Way Strategic Initiatives funding in Phase 1 preliminary signal upgrade and coordination design in the amount of $45,000. Our city engineer, Chris Bosley, and our street and engineering department is here today. Go ahead.
Thank you, council members, for having me before you today. The reason why I'm here is asking you to approve a contract with Welch Comer Engineers for design, or the preliminary design of upgrading our Government Way corridor, the signals on that, and ADA improvements as well. So the reason why we're going about this is because there's a strategic initiatives grant funding opportunity through the local Highway Technical Assistance Council for up to $10 million that can be used for projects like this. They don't require any match, and the project does not have to be fully designed to get this money. However, there's 20 points out of about 100, I believe, that are awarded towards how much your project is bid ready. So if it's just in the planning phase, it could be 1 to 3 points. If you're 50% there, it's about half the points. If your plans are ready to bid, it's 20 points. So we will get more points towards the scoring if we get an engineering firm under contract. And it doesn't have to be fully designed by that time. By the time that the funding is awarded in September, it just needs to be, we have to demonstrate that we can finish it within a short amount of time. So we've been looking at this Government Way corridor for quite a while and trying to get the signals coordinated through there. And so this map here that I've got, I apologize for showing all red lights. I should have made them all green just to show how improved this is going to be. But we want to go from Harrison all the way up to Prairie Avenue with this. Prairie Avenue is actually, it's a partnership between us and the city of Hayden, and we've talked to them briefly about it. We can also get more points for being interjurisdictional like this. So they are on board with that as well. So we like to go forward with getting this designed. Another part of this that they would be doing is, because we'd be upgrading the pedestrian push buttons, we'd be looking at all the pedestrian ramps that don't meet ADA and bringing those up into compliance also. I mentioned that the grant is up to $10 million, but we have been advised not to seek $10 million because it's less likely to be awarded. So we're thinking that in the $5 to $6 million range, we think we can get a really good project out of this. So with that, I would stand for any questions and ask that you approve this contract. Oh, and also, before I turn it over to you, Mr. Gookin had asked that this go to the full council at the next council meeting rather than consent calendar.
Thank you, Chris. We had discussed that as well. Councilman English.
Oh, well, just that, yeah, I think, yeah, it looks like a great project. I mean, we've needed those kind of things for some time. Just to be clear, all you're asking for approval today is, I mean, a minor piece of that. What is it, $45,000 for the initial design contract? Is it versus
yes,
that other thing in the millions? That's if we get to go on and build it out. Is that?
Correct, yes. Yes, this would just be figuring out all the items that we need and getting plans started to put together so that if we are awarded this, we can finish the plans and go to construction on it. What we'd be trying to do is put in radios to communicate between signals or fiber optic where we have access to that, just so that the signals will talk to each other and we can get some sort of progression going through the corridor rather than arriving on red lights.
Right. And yeah, I think that makes sense. And I had just, beforehand mentioned to Christy that one, I think this looked good even before I heard this, and, definitely in support of it. But when we got to the part of, the final question about, consent or regular agenda. On one hand, it's, in the scope of things, relatively small. On the other hand, I'm aware of the same, community level of interest, Councilman Gookin, and so, if people want, I don't know if this would or could tie into whatever that metropolitan, traffic plan, and there's mixed stuff on that, but I think it's, that makes sense to have the discussion, on the full council level. So when we, assuming we approve it and we get to that point, I would also support that, bringing it to full council.
Great. Chris, when I've talked with the police department about traffic management, their biggest input is the synchronized lights, that it would change everything. It would stop the amount of accidents that are not only on Government Way, but also on 95. What's your input on that?
Well, I think that would help a lot to get some consistency in that, and then I think it would remove a lot of frustration with drivers have when they keep arriving on reds. They're more likely to run a red light because they're already frustrated because they got stopped at the last one. I've seen some pretty bad red light running, and scares me, to be honest. But yes, I think this will help with that. This will help with the north-south direction. For east-west to occur, it will take some sort of traffic management center or something like that, because our signals and ITD signals don't talk to each other without some sort of moderator in between there to translate.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly ready to take action on this today, but then we would also get it before the full council, and so we can have a really good discussion. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Given that, then I would make a motion to recommend that council approve a professional service agreement with Welch Comer Engineers for the Government Way Strategic Initiative funding Phase 1 preliminary signal upgrade and coordination design in the amount of $45,000.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then do we just give you a directive, is that correct, Troy? Or do we make a motion to bring it forward?
You don't need a motion.
Yes.
Okay, just a directive.
On the full agenda, yep.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to item number 2. Request approval of professional service agreement with HMH Engineering for design of the 3rd Street Stormwater Storage Filtration System in the amount of $34,675.08. City Engineer Chris Bosley.
All right, thank you again. So this project is a bit of an interesting one in that a while back you had given permission to award a contract to HMH for the East Sherman stormwater outfall reduction, which was for $190,000. Well, since that time, we have really started to think about what was happening at McEwen Parking Garage recently we've had some really large storm events that were surprised everyone with how much volume of water was coming down our storm pipe to the 3rd Street outfall. And it was blowing the manhole lid off and flooding the parking garage. And so we contacted DEQ to find out if we could take that East Sherman stormwater project and move that funding over to the 3rd Street outfall instead. So on the East Sherman outfall, there were only 12 acres that we were working with there that we were going to reduce the amount of phosphorus going into the lake and the river there. Well, with this project, this is 241 acres of area here. We won't be able to solve all of that, but DEQ said you just need to reduce the same amount. So we can easily reduce 12 acres out of this, probably a lot more drainage than that. And our idea here is that if we can reduce the amount of water coming out the outfall, where it's less likely to blow the lid off the manhole and cause future flooding problems. So we're taking this phosphorus reduction project, which we will be reducing phosphorus, but we're also reducing the amount of flow which is going to help us with the problem that we've been facing down at McEwen. So we're also going to look at other opportunities while we're doing that, and potentially our drainage utility could put in some money to do additional work above the money that has been awarded by DEQ for the project. So once we get into design, we'll figure out what's feasible, and then we would have to come back to you for a construction project or to reallocate funding for that. But we're asking approval essentially to translate our East Sherman project over to 3rd Street so that we can have a bigger impact.
Okay. Questions?
Sure, and when, if this moved forward, I guess, wondering kind of when it would happen, and also, is this, how much traffic impact or things above ground? Will there be a point in time where, we have some streets blocked off and it's all dug up, or what? How will this get accomplished when you're really going to do it?
There probably would be some traffic impacts, but probably we don't know what it will happen in the downtown area yet. But one part that we've found, and I've got this image here that shows the entire drainage area, and you can see it's quite large. Some of the stuff that's up in the neighborhood areas is lower hanging fruit for us to get because we can just grab that and do similar to what we've been doing with the Sanders Beach outfall and putting in storage filtration units underground. And those are where the majority of the phosphorus is going to come from, is those areas with manicured lawns, yes. So there would be a little bit more impact up there on the low-volume neighborhood streets anyway, but we don't know exactly what impacts it'll have down at McEwen when we get to that point.
And in your, I guess, kind of ideal timeline, what would be actual construction phase on? Would it happen over one summer, or what?
Yes, this would happen in the spring. We would get the design done this fall and winter, go out to bid in the spring, and hopefully as soon as the weather's dry enough, attack it in the spring.
24?
Yes.
So it could happen. Oh, good. Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you. Well, Chris, this is one of those projects that people don't really pay attention to, but they're critical. And I know that I don't have the statistics on what your office has done to reduce the phosphorus going into the river, but maybe you have something you could throw out just so our audience understands how critical this is.
I don't have any numbers with me on that right now, but I can say that the Sanders Beach project that was contributing, I can't even remember the number of acres that was, but it was much larger than the East Sherman project, and that one, all the underground storm work has been completed, and now they're just going and pouring back in driveway approaches and paving back around it. So that project is wrapping up right now. So we've already made a big impact. Hasn't really rained much since we started that project, so we're not seeing the benefits of it, but
That's
we'll
great.
be ready when the rain comes.
Okay, that's great. Do I have a motion?
Sure. Well, then I would make a motion to recommend that council approve a professional service agreement with HMH Engineering for design of the 3rd Street Stormwater Storage Filtration System in the amount of $34,675.08.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
And that's smaller and no, I don't think any. So hopefully consent is good with me.
Yeah, very, very small project. So that concludes our agenda today. Thank you for joining us.
Great.